Loyola University basketball coach Sheryl Swoopes, she's under investigation accused of mistreating players. One of them is speaking out this morning telling us why she wanted to transfer. ABC's Lindsay Davis is here with the details. Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning, Laura. Sheryl Swoopes was the first woman to ever sign with the WNBA, but this morning the college coach is not only under fire but under investigation after reports that the majority of her roster has decided to leave. They fired her. They didn't just replace Sheryl Swoopes. They kicked her out. And why? Because of Caitlin Clark. There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be. Over there, yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't want to be here. I don't think this is where I want to be. Months ago, Swoopes sat on her high horse predicting doom for the Indiana Fever. She dismissed Caitlin Clark, claimed nobody wanted to play in Indiana, and confidently declared that no top talent would sign there. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, appreciate your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Let's go. So I want to do a little bit of a dive into the Fever roster, what that looks like now that we've gotten through the bulk of the free agency offseason. We've seen a lot of changes. Fast forward to today, and the Fever just pulled off the biggest free agency move in WNBA history, and the way they came back the second game, it just makes you excited to okay, I want to be a part of that. They didn't lay down and quit. They came back and actually try to beat us early. You know that in the next game, superstar signings, game changers, and Swoopes, so y'all can record this, you cannot record it. But the big thing I want everybody to hear me say right now, she's been awfully quiet. Have you ever seen someone vanish after running their mouth? That's what's happening now. Indiana just sent a statement that echoes across the entire league, and we're here to break it all down. All right, Hoop Queens, gather around, because we've got some major tea brewing in the WNBA. Indiana Fever just landed Brianna Turner in free agency. Brianna Turner, let that sink in. But before we jump into the juicy details, take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stay in the loop with the hottest WNBA updates, expert breakdowns, and all the drama you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's dive in. The Indiana Fever just flipped free agency on its head. They didn't just sign players, they built a powerhouse. You ever play franchise mode in a video game and go wild in free agency? That's exactly what Indiana just did. They went all in, stacking their roster with experienced champions, gritty competitors, and players who bring both skill and swagger. This wasn't a passive offseason, it was a strategic takeover. First, they landed Natasha Howard, a three-time WNBA champion and one of the most dominant defensive forces in the league. Howard doesn't guard opponents, she erases them. Her ability to switch onto any player, protect the rim, and own the glass instantly elevates Indiana's defensive identity. Then came Duana Bonner, a sixes scoring machine who's a matchup nightmare for defenders. Bonner brings leadership, championship experience, and a clutch factor that makes the Fever a legitimate playoff threat. In Sophie Cunningham, the Indiana Fever are trading for a multidimensional wing capable of knocking down the three ball, locking down defenders, and they weren't done. Sophie Cunningham, she's a walking spark plug, fearless, trash-talking, and ready to fire up both her team and the crowd. She thrives in high-pressure moments and plays with a chip on her shoulder, something Indiana desperately needed. To top it off, they added Sydney Colson, a veteran presence with championship DNA who glues teams together behind the scenes. Colson's leadership in the locker room will be just as crucial as her play on the floor. This isn't just a collection of talent, it's a blueprint for success. The Fever didn't wait for greatness. They built it. And that's where you brought up the Fever. I think what I've learned in my WNBA experience is pace of play trumps physicality. It trumps size, it can trump experience, because a lot of times when you're experienced, it's really like code word for your veteran, which is code word for your old pace, yeah. So I feel like I know that's why you guys were so good for those years in 2018 and 2020, the years we won. That was our whole mantra, was pace, 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 pace. And what I see in Caitlin. For months, the media peddled the same tired narrative. Nobody wants to play for Indiana. The franchise was seen as a dead zone, a place elite players wouldn't even consider. Analysts dismissed the Fever, critics laughed off the idea of major signings, and Sheryl Swoopes, she practically scoffed at the notion that Indiana could attract top-tier free agents. To many, the Fever were just a struggling team with no real pull in the league. Unable to hit Bree Jones, another old board for Connecticut. Better look for Mabry. And yet here we are. Indiana didn't just land free agents, they pulled in some of the best available talent. The same team that supposedly couldn't attract stars just assembled one of the most dangerous rosters in the WNBA. Natasha Howard, Duana Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Carlson, these aren't just warm bodies, these are game changers, playoff-tested veterans players who could have gone anywhere but chose Indiana. That alone shatters every false narrative about the Fever being an undesirable destination. Now the same analysts who wrote off Indiana are scrambling that nobody wants to play their take aged like expired milk. The entire perception of the Fever just flipped overnight. And it all comes down to one undeniable reason. They built a culture that players want to be a part of, with Caitlin Clark in town, a front office making aggressive moves, and a roster that's suddenly one of the best in the league. Indiana isn't just back, they're a problem. Let's stop dancing around it. This is the Caitlin Clark effect in full force. Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie trying to find her place in the league. She's a franchise-altering force, the kind of player who doesn't just elevate her team, but reshapes the entire WNBA landscape. The Indiana Fever, a team that had been struggling for years, suddenly finds itself as the most talked about squad in the league, and that's no accident. Clark's arrival has turned the franchise into a destination, a team worth watching, and a team worth joining. I think it's so positive. I really do. I think it's a fun time to be a part of the W. I truly believe that. I think the skill and the talent has always been there, but now it's just the viewership, and so I give a big old clap to the rookie class. I think that's a lot to deal with when you're at that age, and you have that many eyes on you. But I think they've done a great job in the league as well. I think the physicality and all that they're going to get used to, but I think especially Caitlin Clark, she's been killing it. When she signed with Indiana, she didn't dance around the truth. Caitlin Clark was a factor. Players aren't just hearing about Clark's ridiculous shooting range or flashy assists, they're hearing about her leadership, her competitive fire, and her ability to make her teammates better. That's the kind of player people want to be around. She's a magnet, attracting both talent and attention to a team that was once overlooked. I'm going to use her word. I want to see her continue to be a doll. She is a doll. You know, here's what I'll say about Angel. I love the fact that she's just her, right? And she says she's unapologetically Angel. She plays hard, both ends of the floor. It doesn't matter what the scoring is. The thing that I think people question wasn't so much about her game or her rebounding, but it was the scoring and the fact that she is either averaging or almost averaging a double. It's pretty impressive to do from anybody, but in particular a rookie. I just love how she's come into this league. She's embraced the bumps, the bruises, she's embraced the good with the bad, and I love watching her play because she plays hard the entire game. And let's talk about Sheryl Swoopes. She thought Clark was overhyped, just another college star who'd struggled for years before making an impact in the pros. But the reality? Clark is already leading the league in assists, dropping 40-point games like it's routine, and shifting the balance of power in the WNBA. Indiana isn't just getting better, they're becoming dangerous. And Clark is the reason why Caitlin Clark's impact extends far beyond the court. Sure, she's torching defenses and setting records, but what's happening outside the game is just as significant. She's driving record ticket sales, shattering TV viewership numbers, and making people care about the WNBA in a way they haven't before. Every Fever game feels like an event. Every matchup featuring Clark turns into must-watch TV. This isn't just a rising star, this is a movement before becoming one of the most electrifying players in WNBA history. Sheryl Swoopes was a sensation on the college stage, leading Texas Tech to the 1993 NCAA title with a record-setting 47-point performance in the championship game. Sheryl Swoopes didn't see this coming. She assumed Clark would have to earn her place over time, that she'd struggle before proving herself. Instead, Clark walked into the league and immediately took it by storm. Now, she's the biggest reason why Indiana Fever has become the go-to destination for top-tier talent. Players want to play with her, coaches want to build around her, fans want to see her. The old guard of the WNBA wasn't ready for this, but now they have no choice but to accept it. For years, the WNBA waited for a player who could change everything, someone who could bring the league mainstream attention, fill arenas, and create a real shift in the sport. The truth? That player is already here. Caitlin Clark isn't waiting her turn, she's rewriting the rules of the game in real time. If you thought Indiana Fever was dangerous last season, Just wait, their projected starting five heading into next year is absolutely terrifying. This isn't just a good lineup, it's a championship caliber core with a blend of youth, experience, shooting, defense, and leadership. The Fever aren't just building for the future, they're ready to win right now. At the heart of it all, Caitlin Clark. She's the face of the franchise, an elite playmaker and a scoring machine who can pull up from anywhere on the court. Next to her is Kelsey Mitchell, a pure shooter with instant offense, capable of taking over a game in an instant. Together, they create one of the deadliest backcourts in the league. And then there's Duana Bonner, the veteran presence every contender needs, clutch, defensive-minded, and battle-tested in the playoffs. The front court is just as lethal. Natasha Howard brings toughness, physicality, and championship experience, making her the enforcer this team needs, and anchoring the paint. Aaliyah Boston, a dominant force on both ends of the floor, a defensive anchor, and a future Hall of Famer in the making. This lineup has it all: shooting, defense, leadership, championship DNA. The rest of the league better take notice, because Indiana isn't coming to compete, they're coming to take over. It wasn't that long ago that Sheryl Swoopes was all over the media, loudly doubting Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. She dismissed Clark's impact, underestimated her ability to adjust to the WNBA, and made it clear that she wasn't buying into the hype. But now, dead silence. During a recent broadcast, commentators were showering Clark with praise, marveling at her dominance on the court. And Swoopes? She sat there in complete silence for an entire minute, 60 full seconds of awkward, uncomfortable quiet. No rebuttal, no counterpoint, no acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, she got it wrong. The woman who had so much to say before the season suddenly had nothing left to offer. And then came the most suspicious moment of all, when Indiana faced off against Dallas, a game that would have forced Swoopes to watch Clark dismantle a team live on air. She was mysteriously absent from the broadcast, pulled from commentary. Coincidence? Unlikely. When the receipts start piling up, when the takes start aging like spoiled milk, it gets harder and harder to show your face. And right now, Swoopes seems to have disappeared, just as Clark is proving every one of her doubters wrong. The truth is, WNBA veterans like Sheryl Swoopes aren't necessarily mad at Caitlin Clark's game. They're mad because she didn't wait her turn. The league has always had an unspoken hierarchy. Rookies earn their stripes, pay their dues, and slowly climb the ladder before being anointed as superstars. Clark, however, didn't follow that script. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't wait for a nod of approval. She walked into the league with the confidence of a champion and played like she belonged from day one. She didn't beg for respect, she took it. And for some people, that's a tough pill to swallow. Her impact goes beyond the court. She's dominating headlines, bringing in record-breaking viewership, and changing how people perceive the WNBA. That kind of influence shifts power, and power shifts make people uncomfortable. When veterans spend years grinding without the same level of attention, it's easy to see why Clark's rise stings. Clark is forcing a new era in the WNBA. She's making the game bigger, attracting new fans, and rewriting the league's status quo. And for the old heads who thought they had control, it's a wake-up call. The WNBA is no longer operating under the same rules that governed the past. Clark's arrival signals something undeniable: the league is evolving, and she's face of that change, whether the veterans like it or not. If Clark keeps up this trajectory, she's on an MVP path sooner than expected. The league's old guard might not want to admit it, but Clark is already playing at an elite level. The numbers speak for themselves: her scoring, her playmaking, her impact on winning. She's not just a great rookie, she's a game changer in real time. And if Indiana wins big this season, the meltdown from her haters is going to be legendary. The MVP talk might feel premature to some, but let's be real, Clark is already proving she belongs in the conversation. If she keeps elevating her team and putting up elite numbers, there's no reason she won't be in serious contention. And if that happens, the WNBA might just have to prepare for a new face of the league much than they expected. There you have it. The Fever just flipped the league on its head. Sheryl Swoopes exposed, Caitlin Clark thriving, the WNBA forever changed. What do you think? Did Indiana just secure their spot as the next dynasty? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and before you go, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on. Thanks for watching and subscribe my channel.